you love the endless expanses of the sea, the warm sand between your toes, and the fresh breeze on your skin, well, then we have some bad news for you. After our video, you'll think twice about ever setting foot on the beach again. The things you're about to see are so freaky and disturbing that you won't believe your eyes. Because one thing is certain, if these unique incidents hadn't been captured on camera, nobody would have believed them. The warm rays of sunshine on your skin, a comfortable beach lounger, and perhaps a cocktail in your hand. These are all things that the man in the following clip could only dream of. While the other beachgoers were enjoying the sunny weather, the man in question found himself in a situation that he actually wanted to avoid at all costs. He was in a hectic chase with the police. The fact that the cat and mouse game went viral in the aftermath is again thanks to a visitor who decided to take his drone to the beach that very day. Of course, he couldn't have known in advance that he would end up capturing a dramatic scene instead of stunning panoramic shots. As we see in the video, it initially seems as if the fugitive might escape the investigators, but then the crook starts to stagger and has an unexpected rendezvous with the water, and consequently, also with the police officers. The details of this bizarre incident took place on Los Angeles' world-famous Venice Beach. As it turned out, the rendezvous on the beach was merely the finale of a chase that had lasted over half an hour. The officers had previously caught the rabbit's foot in the act during a burglary. And although the cops had initially chased the criminal in cars, he somehow managed to reach the Santa Monica Pier. Unfortunately for the arrested man, his stamina is not unlimited, so he soon found himself behind Swedish bars. These women were almost eaten by a whale. What do Jonah from the Bible and Pinocchio have in common? That's right, they were both swallowed by a whale. Basically, no one is keen to do the same as the prophet and the wooden puppet. But life writes its own stories. Wisdom that two American women had to find out for themselves. Originally, Julie McSorley and Liz Cottrell had set out for the bay of San Luis Obispo in November 2020 to go kayaking. Meanwhile, the two women marveled at a group of humpback whales enjoying a welcome meal. But before the onlookers knew what was happening to them, a huge marine mammal suddenly appeared below them, tipped the kayak over, and plunged them into the water. And in the videos and photos that soon appeared online, you can see how the women and the kayak actually disappear briefly into the whale's mouth. Afterwards, however, the shocked friends said that everything had happened far too quickly. They themselves didn't know what had happened in detail, but they did know one thing. They had somehow survived their encounter with the humpback whale and learned an important lesson. After the women had been brought safely back to land, they could hardly believe that they had not even been injured. Speaking to a TV presenter, Julie later stated, "It definitely woke me up and made me realize that we shouldn't be in the feeding zone of whales." Particularly curious, Julie's companion Liz originally didn't want to come kayaking at all, as she is actually afraid of the water. Julie first had to persuade her to go. She insisted that the kayaks were very stable and would never tip over. Well, you can be so wrong. What's an army doing on the beach? These are scenes that we only really know from war movies. An army armed to the teeth appearing on the Mexican beaches of Cancun and Riviera Maya, exuding a menacing atmosphere. In view of the countless ships, tanks, and over 8,000 soldiers that appeared on the scene in April 2023, a fundamental question arises. What on earth is the military doing on the beach? Are the soldiers about to carry out a devastating surprise attack? Well, not quite. Although the military did not fire a single shot after landing on the beach, the operation had a very serious background. As the violence in the tourist areas had continued to increase and even claimed 8 lives, the Mexican government decided to drastically increase the protection of visitors over the Easter holidays. While most of the National Guard, Marines, and Army troops patrolled the beaches, there was also an increased military presence at highways, airports, and bus stations. How crabs conquered Southern California. If you go to a beach, you have to expect to encounter 1 or 2 animals. However, what happened in Southern California in December 2019 went beyond any known framework. Back then, thousands and thousands of crustaceans transformed the beaches and coasts into a bright red sea of color. In detail, The small creatures of the species Gramothea planipes looked like miniature versions of lobsters or crayfish. They are normally home in deeper waters and much further south. So what brought them to San Diego and Orange County of all places? Well, the crawfish invasion has been linked by experts to either intensifying El Niño or another event known as a warm blob. Leaving aside the bathers and surfers who were nipped by the crabs, many washed-up animals died immediately after arriving on the beach, leaving behind an unbearable stench. A sea lion in distress. You're going on a fishing trip? Well, I'll come with you. This or something similar might have been the thoughts in the head of the massive sea lion that jumped into Ernest and Basia Goddick's boat in September 2022. However, the real reason for the unexpected visit was a little more serious. The desperate sea lion kept the couple from British Columbia company as it tried to escape a group of orcas. Earlier, Ernest and Vaisha had been in Pedder Bay about 30 kilometers from the Canadian city of Victoria. Shortly after, they saw a number of orcas pass by. The underside of their small fishing boat was suddenly hit by something very large, and before they had digested the initial shock, the next scare followed, when the sea lion emerged from the water and tried to climb into the boat. And although the whole thing was over after a few moments, Ernest and Vaisha will not forget this incident in a hurry. This woman found the world's oldest message in a bottle. If you think your friends take a long time to reply to your messages, then listen very carefully. The text message that Mary Ann Winkler received a few years ago on the beach of the North Frisian island of Amrum had been on its way for no less than 108 years and 138 days. Okay, admittedly, it wasn't a WhatsApp in a traditional sense, but an ancient message in a bottle. It was thrown into the North Sea on November 30th, 1906, in Plymouth in the south of England, to gather new insights into the currents on the seabed. To this end, George Parker Bitter of the Marine Biological Association of the United Kingdom handed over hundreds of bottles to the sea, some of which never reappeared. The message inside the jars was again of a very special nature. It asked the finder to document the location on the enclosed postcard and then send it back to the MBA. Of course, the effort was not in vain. A shilling was promised as the finder's reward. Somehow heartwarming, after Mary Ann Winkler had found the bottle, she followed the instructions and received the promised shilling in return. While its value is the equivalent of around 15 cents, the MBA first had to find the outdated coin on eBay. However, the title recognized by Guinness World Records that Mary Ann officially found the world's oldest message in a bottle is probably not even worth 2 shillings. Why were thousands of dead fish washed up on the beach? In June 2023, visitors to Bryan Beach in Freeport, Texas, were presented with a gruesome sight. The ocean had washed up thousands and thousands of dead fish on the beach. Soon after, a spokesperson from the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department stated that the mass fish kill was due to low oxygen levels caused by warming waters. It was estimated that tens of thousands of fish died as a result. Most affected, however, was the Atlantic menhaden, a member of the herring order that grows up to 50 centimeters long. How an earthquake shook Japan and the world. March 11, 2011, is forever etched in Japan's history. Back then, the East Asian island nation in the Pacific was hit by the worst earthquake in its history, and as a result, by a devastating tsunami. While more than 20,000 people lost their lives and entire regions were devastated, the Tohoku earthquake also led to the nuclear disaster at Fukushima. Images of this devastating event went around the world at the time, and many of them were taken by private individuals. While the tsunami reached a height of up to 10 meters, it swept away everything that crossed its path. There was no escape, and the debris field left behind by the tidal wave had post-apocalyptic characteristics. In the clips, we can see how the masses of water caused entire buildings to collapse and washed away vehicles as if they were toy cars. The cooling systems at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant were also unable to withstand the lashing arm of the sea. Core meltdowns occurred in Units 1, 2, and 3. The gigantic quantities of radioactive material that were released as a result contaminated the air, soil, water, and food. Please subscribe and never miss a new video again.